What's up, everybody? On this week's Sportlight Podcast, we talk to Olympic swimmer and current world champion in the short track, Rhyan White. And she's going to walk us through her Olympic journey over the next couple of years. And we start that today as she talks about transitioning from being a swimmer collegiately with Alabama to moving to a new professional team, and just walks us through some of the lessons she's learning as she goes through that transition.
Welcome to the Sportlight Podcast for parents, coaches, and athletes. The Sportlight refers to the time in an athlete's life when they have increased ability to affect the culture around them and the increased opportunity to learn life's lessons through sports. This podcast aims to help parents and coaches capitalize on their athletes' precious time in the Sportlight. The Sportlight Podcast is brought to you by Especially for Athletes program.
Welcome to the Sportlight Podcast. We're here again today with Rhyan White, Olympic swimmer, and getting ready for the Paris Games next summer and her shot at hopefully bringing back the gold medal. We had Rhyan on several months ago, and we decided that we want to keep following her progress as she prepares for the Olympics, and we're going to have her on several times. And so, Rhyan, thanks for joining us.
Yeah, I'm super excited to talk to you guys today and kind of share my journey as I move from college swimming into pro life and shoot for Paris. So thank you for having me.
Yeah, I'll fire off the first question. And, I know that last time we spoke, you were still at Alabama and now you're in Colorado. So are you officially done with Alabama? Have you graduated and you're done swimming there? Are you now just all Olympics?
So how it works is you join maybe a pro group. Alabama's not having a pro group, so that's why I'm moving. I'm actually going to North Carolina. So I wanted to finish my time at Alabama on somewhat of a high note, have kind of an ending. So I decided to do a training camp with them in Colorado. So it was a small group. Just one coach came with us, and then we're now actually in California for a meet. So this is my last little thing with Alabama. But yeah, I'm competing. I'm wearing an Alabama cap this weekend. So after this week, I'll head back to Tuscaloosa, get all my stuff that's pretty much packed, and drive to North Carolina. So yeah, I'll be training at NC State.
What's been your life since we last spoke? Fill us in on what's been going on, what you competed in, how have things been?
Yeah, last we spoke. Since then, I guess this year I spent my time as a fifth year, which was a lot different than I kind of expected. I thought that there would be more flexibility, I guess, and it was just a little different. I was much more on the team than I expected to be, which was fine. It wasn't good or bad, just different than what I was thinking. And I swam at NCAAs and SECs. I haven't had the best year, to be honest, but I had a good experience, and I think it's kind of what needed to happen. I've learned a lot this year, so yeah, I think it just showed me that I'm really ready for change. But yeah, that's how it's been.
Yeah, those are good moments, actually. One of the questions I was going to ask you is, last time you were with us, you shared some incredible things that we've been able to share with people all around the state this year, of Utah and other states. As we've gone around, we've shared your be who you needed when you were younger has been a message that we've shared with so many. And my question for you was just, what are some of the more powerful lessons you've learned as you've gone throughout this last year?
Oh, it's a big question. I think something that I struggled with this year was self-accountability. I think after the Olympics, it was such a high, and I had the people around me were holding me very accountable. And I think this year, my coach somewhat stepped back from coaching me. I think just trying to push me into the next phase of my career. And I think I struggled a lot with self-accountability, doing the stuff that I had always done. And so I'm that's something that I'm working on now. And I'm like excited to have a new environment around, because I think I became pretty complacent where I was. That's one thing, just like holding myself accountable and doing the little things. I think also like the people who are the best are willing to do what no one else is willing to do. And I think that's like a big thing that's like screaming to me this year that like I'm working on right now, is just like little tiny things that other people aren't willing to do. And it's not even like at practice or in the weight room or anything like that. It's like, I don't know, sometimes I see a piece of like garbage on the ground and I'll pick it up, and it's just something that's like a little fulfilling. Or like wake up and make my bed in the morning, and it's like little tiny battles that I think like add up and like feed confidence, if that makes sense. Yeah. So that's like another thing that I've definitely felt that I've been like building since NCAA's, which was in March.
That's a huge thing for me to hear as a coach, Ryan. I think that tells me that you really are turning the corner from kind of, needing to be sort of occasionally motivated to like, no, I'm self-motivated. I'm going to win every little battle of the day. If I see a piece of trash on the ground, it's a battle, right? And I'm going to win it. I'm going to compete. And yeah, that tells me that you're getting your mind right for Paris. That's awesome.
Yeah, I'm doing what I can. And I think like do something with all of this and like the process that I've been going through, like having a lot of patience with myself. I found out that I was leaving Alabama in April, and I made the decision of where I was headed pretty soon after I decided to like leave. And since then, it's been honestly pretty hard, like to go to certain practices if I know it's something that it's not my favorite thing to do at practice, and I know like that's on the schedule. Like waking up early, things like that. Like they're just like, they're harder to get to just because I'm like on my way out. And I think like this last 3 weeks has been such a test of my patience, which is, I mean, even good, not just for training, but for life. I feel like I've had like such like a huge perspective of patience the last like month. But yeah.
Yeah. Tell us about that a little bit, Ryan. Like what is it that has tried your patience this last month?
Honestly, like it's not that I have any like issues with any specific coach of ours or teammate, but little tiny things will get on my nerves. Or I'll go to the training room and like ask one of our trainers, can I get cupping? And they're like working on someone else. And I'm like sitting there and I'm like, well, why don't they just do my cupping now? And it's like, obviously that sounds very like snotty or like I'm being a diva. But those are just things like that will get on my nerves, and I just have to like take a breath, or I have like, I don't know, random screenshots of things on my phone and stuff. Like I'll just read them and try to calm down, talk to my friends. Another thing, like I have a super close friend group, and there's like 4 of us or 5, and 3 of us are moving away from Alabama. So 2 girls like left before I did, and then one of the girls is staying, and I feel so much for her because she's like, all her friends are really leaving. And that's been another thing. Like I've gotten to see them leave, and I'm still like, it's not my turn yet. And it's just like waiting for my turn to come. And like, I've talked to the coach that I have been working with here, and we're just like taking it one day at a time. Like this was like 2 weeks ago, I think we spoke. And then like at the end of the 2 weeks, he was like, see, now we only have 3 days. Like those days went by so fast when you look back, but as like you're going through them, it's like really slow. But yeah, I think just like sticking to having somewhat of a routine and like trying to stick to it. Another thing that I think has like, I wouldn't say taught me, but maybe reminded me, as a pro, it's like a lot more in your hands, where in college they say you have to be in this group this day, you have to do this many 100s. But as a pro, they're kind of more like, how does your body feel? How did you sleep last night? And so on some of the days I think sometimes I felt like I was maybe cutting a corner, but it was just like they were giving me a lot more freedom and flexibility, I guess. So it's kind of hard to like manage that. But the thing that I learned from him was like, whatever I say I'm going to do, I need to do it. So if at the beginning of practice I say I'm going to go in the up group, which has more yardage, I can't decide after warm up because I now have decided like I didn't sleep well last night. I'm actually going to go in the down group. It's like whatever I walk in the doors thinking I'm going to do, I need to just stick to it. So that's like another thing that I've learned.
You know, Dustin, as she was talking, I think you and I had this realization a few times, but you probably more than me. But when we talk to you and you're sitting there talking about your friend group and people moving on, and Dustin and I right now both have daughters in college, and sometimes it's funny to take a step back and be like, yeah, Rhyan White is an Olympic swimmer, but Rhyan White is also a young adult that has friends, that has like relationships, that's saying goodbye to a place. And just as you were talking, I was sitting there just thinking my daughter's transitioning colleges right now and just kind of trying to find roommates at the new place and trying to say goodbye to the ones of the old. And it's easy to forget that while you're going on this Olympic journey, your other life doesn't stop, right? That you're still a friend to others. You're still a daughter, a sister, and all those things. And so that was just kind of cool to hear stuff like that going on in your mind too, you know?
Yeah. Probably refreshing for, you know, I hope for people, if there are kids listening to these, adults as well, but just that, you know, that our athletes, whether they're college or pro athletes, coaches, whatever the level of the coach is that, yeah, you're right, Shad. Like we think that all they do is just eat, sleep, and drink, you know, their sport constantly, and that they're just constantly on the basketball court in their suit and tie coaching. And you forget that, you know, they have to brush their teeth, and they have to, you know, they like to watch TV, and they like to do things sometimes. And especially, and I would guess that for your mental health, Ryan, that, you know, you probably have to balance that, or I hope you're balancing it. I hope that sounds like you do, but maybe you can talk a little bit to that. How do you make sure that you make time to not always be on? Because, you know, as a high level swimmer, like you are now, a professional swimmer preparing for the Olympics, like you have to be able to turn it off from time to time and just let your hair down and be a friend, right? How do you do that and still stay focused on the goal of a gold medal?
Yeah. I think, well, a couple weekends ago, I went camping with my friends, and like we left on Saturday after practice, and we were planning to stay until like Sunday night to get home Sunday night. And I felt that in the moment I needed to spend like a little more time with my friends and make that memory, because they were all going home for the summer and I'm like about to move away. So yes, I think balance is a huge part of it, especially with like the frustration of being impatient as I was going to these practices where my previous coach like wasn't coaching me anymore. I'm working with like a coach who coaches a different type of swimming. He coaches distance, and he's catering to my needs as much as he can while I'm still swimming with like a group. But yeah, I think just like taking a second with myself and just saying, if I miss practice tomorrow, like to stay with my friends and get this time away from the pool and away from Tuscaloosa and away from like that environment just for like one day, is it gonna hurt me? And I think like picking battles kind of, so we decided to spend the night again. And like, I don't know, I just think that little bit of extra time with my friends and away from the pool, it was almost like a distraction a little bit, and like allowing myself to be a little distracted in that moment. I think it was somewhat of like preparation to be locked in for the next 12 months, because once I get to NC State, it's going to be a lot different. I think I won't be so comfortable. It's like going to be very uncomfortable, I think, in the beginning, just meeting new people and getting to know a new coach, letting him get to know me and like how my body works and functions in training. So yeah, I would say like just like picking the battle and like self-reflection, I guess, and like having like the conversation with myself instead of letting someone else like determine what they think I should want to do, and doing what like I want in the moment.
Shad and I talk a lot about, it seems like it comes up, Shad, almost every episode now. We talk about being intentional. We talk about prioritizing your day first, not letting your day prioritize you, but that we prioritize our schedule based on our priorities. And then I'm actually studying right now this idea of mindfulness. I'm reading this really cool book by this Buddhist monk on like being in the moment and mindfulness and stuff. And I'm really fascinated on how we do that, because it's so hard to do, right? But as a pro athlete, some of the pro athletes we've interviewed, we have a professional golfer that we've had on this and we on the podcast, and we've talked off air as well about it. And you know, I would guess that in your world, it's very similar now, especially now as a pro and Olympic athlete, that idea of getting yourself 100% in the moment when you have so many things that are tugging at you. It's really hard to be present. Like when you're camping, you've got to be thinking about, well, the pool and my diet and my sleep and my workout and my recovery and my pre-work, you know, like you got all this stuff, but yet you're camping. Like you need to be able to be mindful of the fact that like you were. So congratulations for doing that, because you were you were focused enough to say, I'm with my friends now. This may be the last time I have this moment. I'm going to be intentional now at making sure that I'm an elite level friend. And how old are you? 20, 21? How old are you?
23.
Yeah, 23. So I'm going to be a 23-year-old college girl for this weekend with my friends, instead of Rhyan White, the soon to be, you know, gold medalist and world record holder. You see what I said there? You catch that right there? Fist bump. World record holder. That's what we're talking about. So that's awesome. And that's something that Shad and I are working on ourselves, and trying to remind kids and parents as well of the importance of, hey, if we're bouncing from this to that, and our brains are constantly from all the stuff that we've got going in and out of it all the time, we're really never going to be our best at anything. And right. And you're getting good at that, which is awesome.
Thank you. Yeah, I think that if you aren't present, you can drive yourself down a rabbit hole of stressing over. And I feel like I have been there. Like obsessing over the things that you miss, or obsessing over the things that you're not going to be there for. It can just add up. And it's kind of like when you get behind in schoolwork or something, and like, you should always do the stuff that's due instead of like keeping track of what's past due. I struggled in school. So this is something that I learned, like, instead of saying, okay, I missed like these 4 assignments, I'll do them first and then do the one that's due tomorrow. Instead, you should like do the one that's due tomorrow and then like do those 4, so that you don't keep adding and adding and adding. But yeah, I think that just doing what's coming next and then making up what you've missed, or I don't know, because if you stress over what you've missed too much, then it just adds and adds and adds up.
Yeah.
So,
you know, that's a principle of win the hour that we talk about a lot, Ryan, is being intentional with our time. And I think that we haven't been to athletic levels that you've been, right? Like Dustin and I don't know that there's been a time in our life, well, a time in my life past age 12. I think age 12 is when I had the realization that that I may not be an Olympic baseball player or something, you know what I say? But you have these different pressures, which may make almost like a flip side of what we call win the hour really important. So we try to get athletes to be intentional about their time and put the most important effort to the most important things, right? And things like schooling and sports and friendship and a family member and faith and things like that. You have a lot of people, I'm sure, that will come to you, and you almost have to be intentional on the other end, because people are coming to you expecting you to do all Olympic stuff, all swimming stuff, and you, it sounds to me like you have to be intentional looking over your day and saying, okay, these 2 hours, that's going to be for me. That's going to be for me and my friends. That's going to be the time I connect with my family. Whereas others might have a ton of that time and they're looking for, okay, when am I going to find an hour to swim? And so it just kind of seems almost like this flip as you go into professional athlete mode. You might have to switch that a little bit and make sure you're taking time to be mindful and time to reflect and connect with people and to be to yourself and enjoy things like camping and walks and the other things you enjoy in life. And that's kind of an interesting thing to me, how that switches for a professional athlete versus someone who plays at amateur levels.
Yeah, I think that there are times in my day that I have realized, especially like in the last few weeks, where I need to be by myself and I need to be like, with the transition from Alabama to NC State, the coaches asked me to kind of keep track of my training program to just, I'm swimming in a meet this weekend. He wants to see where I'm at, and like what I've been doing the last like month and a half. So like at some point in each day, I've sat down and like written down the practice. And I just feel like this, like me thinking and like, it kind of helps me reflect on the practice. And it also helps me be more intentional during the practice because I'm needing to remember it hours later whenever I do sit down to write it down. But yeah, that time to like, I don't know, it's just like a good reflection. It takes me like 30 minutes. But yeah, that is kind of like one of the things that I have prioritized to kind of do what you're saying, like be intentional with that hour and flip it from, okay, in practice I need to do this, but I need to like save also some attention for later, I guess. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's really interesting.
Ryan, have you kind of changing gears here a little bit? Have you ever met Michael Phelps?
No, but I've seen him speak before. I've never met him personally.
Yeah, last year in the Olympics, obviously he didn't swim in the Tokyo Olympics, but I know you were really close with some of the swimmers, especially the women swimmers who won gold and everything. I'm thinking of one right now in my head. I can see her face, but I can't remember her name. But is there anything that those swimmers who did reach the pinnacle, who did win the gold medal, and I know of a couple who won multiple at the last Olympics, is there anything that they've told you, or have you reached out now that you're kind of shooting for that to get their thoughts or advice or input on things? Anything they've shared with you that you think is of value that you might be able to share with our listeners? Maybe it's not a specific thing they've taught you or told you, but is there something that you've noticed in them and their work ethic or their approach to things or their mindset or whatever that you can now look and say, okay, I need to be more like that?
Yeah, I would say I probably would have like more of an observation than a piece of advice that like they've told me. I'm really close with Erica Brown. She swims at Tennessee, and I think she's just like so sure of herself, and she like really has trust in her training, and I think it shows behind the blocks. She like walks with so much confidence. She's very genuine. I think she doesn't really like talk down on people, which I think just like built her own confidence almost a little bit too. Just knowing that she knows that she's doing what is right, and she knows that she's doing what is like morally, I think it's just more fulfilling for her. So I think like just being sure of your confidence and sorry, my alarm is going off. Being like trustful with yourself, to be sure of yourself. I think that's like the biggest thing that I've noticed from her.
When you say trust your training, explain that phrase, what that means to you. I'm interested in that.
There's a lot of people that I have seen just in all of the time that I've been swimming that question things that coaches are saying to do. If someone who has come from like we have someone at Bama who's like from another country, and his training at home was much different than like what he did once he got to Bama. And I think like he really trusted his coach at home, and it's normal like to trust that, because how else would he have gotten to be able to swim at like a D1 school in the US from another country? But then it brings to like questioning the coach a lot, and I think that kind of hinders the relationship with the coach and the athlete. And then once you get behind the blocks at the end of the season, these thoughts like just come into your mind. I mean, it's so natural to be behind the blocks doubting yourself. And if you have like specific practices that you think you wish you had done differently or been able to do differently because you didn't trust what the coach had written for you, then you're like already like behind the blocks. You're already like feeling like you might fail, I guess. So I don't know. I think just like having trust in the training and trust in the coach, I think that comes with like communication mostly. But yeah, just knowing that you gave your all, like every single practice, I think would bring trust in your training and in your body. And, you know, in this practice, we did like 200 pace work, and this is how my body felt. And that's exactly how like a 200 in the race is actually going to feel. So you can trust that your body has been through it and your body has been able to adapt and change to overcome the pain.
That's I would think in your field, especially because we're talking right tenths of a second decide everything. That you getting up on the blocks and 98% of your mind is I trust my work, I'm ready to go, but there's that 2% that's not quite sure if you're ready or not quite sure if you've trained right, or if you've like, that's the difference in the 10th right of a second that you need. So you going into that. So to me, when you say you trust it, I guess with anything, when we trust somebody, tell me if I'm wrong here, but you have to have, I guess, the respect to and from with your coach to be able to go and say, hey, I have a question on this, or I don't, I gotta know that we're doing everything we can do. And that, right. If not, then you just say, you know, yes, coach, but in your mind, you're thinking this isn't right. And then you're doubting yourself on the block. Is that true that do you have that sort of relationship with your coach where you can go and say, hey, this isn't sitting well with me? I mean, now as a pro, you for sure need to.
Yeah. I would say I had this relationship with my coach, and I'm moving into like a new program with someone completely new. So it's something that I'm planning to build with my new coach. He's told me that they're really big on communication, and like their coaching staff is always like kind of adaptable and they're open ears all the time. So it's something that I'm looking forward to having. But it takes time to build. And I think, respect is a big thing. And just knowing that like when I emailed him, he like responded super quickly, called me, and he's like, I would love to coach you. I'd love to have you here. And that's like inspiring in itself, because I feel like he has the respect and almost he's like humbled that I would ask, and I'm humbled that he would want to work with me. So I think, respect is definitely a big component of it. And just communication, knowing like if I ask him, why are we doing this? He has a good explanation as to why we're doing that and how it's going to help me. And he knows my goals too. I think that's a big thing. Like I said on the phone, I said, I want to go to Paris. And he said, well, I don't know why else you would be doing this. So we're right there on the same wavelength right now. So
how are you doing on your goals? Was it 51? Was that the number that resonated? Was I right? I vaguely remember.
I think it was closer. It was a little bit faster than that. But yeah, like I said, this year wasn't my best year. I'm done with short course now, so I won't have like an opportunity to touch those. But I think that's part of the drive. If we always hit our goals, then this wouldn't be as fun, right?
That's right. So what are you preparing for then for Paris? What races and what are your goals?
Yeah, we have World Championship trials are at the end of June, and World Championships are in July in Japan. So that's like my next big meet. I think with the lesson of patience, I'm going to be tested even more now, because I am going to like a new program with a whole group of new people, a new coach. And I think just like getting to know my body and letting the coaches there get to know like how I train and everything will be a big test of the patience, because I'm only going to be there for 1 month before I head to World Championship trials. But ultimately the goal is Paris. So I'm okay if things don't go 100% as planned, and there's going to be bumps. I know there are. I'm I'm trying to be prepared. Obviously, like I'm not expecting the worst, but I'm trying to have very minimal expectations just so that I'm not discouraged. I think it will help me and also more free that way. So as of right now, I'm prepping for World Championship trials in a month.
In Japan.
Yeah, the trials are in Indiana, but yes.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, the meet will be in Japan. It's similar to Olympic trials where they take like the top 2 people in each event. So
the top how many? I'm sorry.
The top 2 people in each event.
So to even make it to the World Championships in Japan, you have to be one of the fastest 2 people in your event in the whole country.
Yes.
I mean, that just like puts things into perspective a little bit, you know, the thousands and thousands and thousands of people who swim, and all you have to do is be one of the fastest 2.
Yeah.
And is that how the Olympics are as well?
Yes. Yeah. Luckily this summer, they're actually doing, so World Championship trials is like we call it a selection meet, and they're sending a team to, I think, 2 other meets, like a European Championships and Pan-Pacific Games, just because like USA Swimming wants to give as many athletes as they can, like opportunity to swim internationally to get the experience. So we're not going to the Olympics for our first international meet, just because they are very intimidating, as you could expect. So World Championship trials that is in June, they're going to have like 3 meets that they're selecting for. I don't know like the criteria to go to the other ones, but for Worlds, it's the top 2. I'm guessing it's maybe like the next 2 and the next 2 for the other meets and stuff. But yeah, so there are other opportunities like international meets to go to this summer.
So how does it change? You talked last time about nutrition and how regimented it was, where you would like eat this before you went into a pool, and then you would get out of the pool, and typically you would do this. You kind of walked us through your day. How does that change when you become a pro? Like when you sign with this team, do they do very similar things and help you with your nutrition and stuff as well? Or is that something now that you're learning to manage yourself versus having Alabama manage it for you, or provide all the food for you to select from?
Yeah, it will be more. It's kind of like the self-accountability I was talking about. It's all going to be on me. It's like what I choose to do. And I've talked to other people on the national team, just like, what day do you go grocery shopping? Do you plan the whole week, or do you plan half the week? Does it give you something to do during the week? Because as a professional swimmer, I mean, you can't like go and do a lot of things during the day. I mean, we have practice twice a day. Most times. So it's like, I don't know, I'm going to use it as somewhat of a hobby, I think, to like maybe research what foods are going to help me like in practice. And we have like the national team nutritionist, but I am excited to like, I don't think much will change. I think I'll just be more like knowledgeable of that stuff. And like, I guess I'll have to go out and buy it instead of having it be given to me from the university, like dining hall and everything. But yeah.
Ryan, I got one more question for you. So the 200 meters, is that just down and back? Is that what are you racing? Remind me what you're racing again.
Yeah, I swim the 100 back and the 200 back. So the 100 is down and back.
Okay, that's the 100. Okay, so a 200 is going to be down and back twice. Okay. So if you were doing the 100, when you come back and you have some free time, do you think that if Shad and I started 25, if we started halfway, okay, we were just out there just floating halfway, so you gave us half a length head start.
A 25, okay.
Okay.
And then head start. Okay.
We fired the gun off. We had a 25 head start. Do you think that would you pass us by the time you got to the wall? Or do you think you'd pass? Where do you think you'd pass us? Or do you think we'd beat you? Because it's on. It is on when you get back.
I think probably like I think I would pass you probably on like the underwaters after the flip. Like after your guys' first 25. I don't know.
On the way back, you'd push off the wall, come up, and you'd be past us.
Yeah, like you guys would be ahead of me on the way back, but as I'm under, I think I would pass you all. Yeah.
Okay. All right. That gives us something to work for, Shad.
You know that Jim Gaffigan, have you heard Jim Gaffigan talking about Olympic sports, that he thinks they should put someone like you and me in the sports just to show how elite they are? Because
yeah, they should.
They're beating each other by like 0.4 seconds. And it's like, if you want to see how real elite they are, have two guys like me and you jump in the pool with Ryan.
Yeah.
That might actually make a really fun video if you're ever in Utah.
Yep.
Like Dustin and I will get there. Dustin will wear a Speedo and I'll film. That would be show fun. People. We can show people
what it looks like when an Olympic swimmer races a regular 46-year-old dad. Here it is. Here's what it looks like.
Yeah.
I'll have like snorkels and I get to use tools and stuff. I get fins and stuff to use too.
You get those boogie boarding fins that you're wearing and you're like, that would put it into perspective.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
We might have to do that. Well, Ryan, we'll let you go. And if you're okay with it, like I said earlier, we'd like to, check up on you every, 4 months or 5 months or something and just kind of see how you're doing.
Yeah,
and we're big fans of yours and we're pulling for you.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, I will. I'm so excited for NC State. So I would be so happy to share like my beginning experience of it and like first impressions. For sure.
Yeah.
Well, there's some cool lessons there too, because right now, though you're a world-class athlete, just the fact that you're willing to kind of talk with us through the journey of, there's a lot of kids right now, for example, graduating from high school and going and joining college teams, right? And you're graduating college and joining a professional team, and some of those stresses and some of those changes and transformations that you're going through right now. Well, that we're having a lot of athletes go through that, even transitioning from junior high and rec sports to high school sports. And so some of those lessons that you're learning, some of what you shared today about adjusting to a new coach and trusting the training and all of those things, they're profound lessons at every level, but it's sure cool to be able to follow a world-class athlete as they go through those transitions. So thanks for letting us.
Thank you.
Your brain about that.
Yeah. One other thing that I will say, you just kind of reminded me, like when I first moved to college, and like something that I've thought of each year, and even still, I posted like on my Instagram, it was kind of, my caption was about this, but like my mom told me, and this isn't even about sports, but my mom told me, like the 5 people you're around the most often are the 5 people, like you'll adopt some of their traits and you'll probably start to act similar to them. You'll probably share beliefs in some way. So like picking these people carefully. And if you have someone in your life that they do something that is like against what you believe in, I think it's best, like as you're moving into a new phase and moving into college, like if you have to like let some people go, it's hard, but I think like in the long run, it makes more value to your life. And I was so lucky to have like 5 amazing people, and some other people like on the outside of that like came and went in my life. But I think like having people that is so hard to say goodbye to, it's like so special. And I think like, I could cry right now. But yeah, I think I picked like very well, and I picked very carefully, and it worked out so like almost perfectly for me. But that would be my advice, like pick those 5 people wisely, because they change your life and they shape your life for sure. So
that's really awesome, Ryan. And the only way to like not feel what you're feeling right now is to not love people the way that you love people.
Yeah.
And we would never want to go in life without loving people enough that it hurts to leave them. I wouldn't want a life where I love people so little that saying goodbye was no big deal. I hope it rips my heart out whenever I move on to a new phase of life, because that means I love those people and got the most out of it. So it's cool that you've grown that close to people.
Yeah. Oh. Well, we're proud of you. Keep it up. Keep your eyes up.
Thank you.
Keep doing the work.
Thank you.
All right. We'll see you, Ryan. Take care.
Well, thank you, everybody, for joining the Sportlight Podcast. Please like it, share it, and send it to people who might be interested. Eyes up. Do the work.
This has been the Sportlight Podcast from Especially for Athletes, sponsored by Coca-Cola. You can learn more about Especially for Athletes by visiting the website at especiallyforathletes.org. You can also learn more about the book, The Sportlight, by Shad Martin and Dustin Smith at especiallyforathletes.org/book.